So, my dear student, today we discuss fracture called Cooley's fracture. It's very common, especially in the older age, and in older age also, especially in the females. What is the Cooley's fracture? The fracture which occurs in the distal part of the radius. You can see the distal 2.5 centimeter of the radius from the carpal joints, radiocarpal joints, and the most important thing in the Cooley's fracture is that means the most characteristic feature is that there is the displacement. The displacement of the distal fragment is always in the dorsal side. Then only you can terminate the Cooley's fracture. So usually when a person receive an injury through fall or whether accident in the outstretched hand, so when you try to protect himself and he just put his hand over the like that over the ground, so that's why after the fracture the distal fragments you can see in the picture. When somebody keep the hand like that, this distal fragment always displays distally. So that is the characteristic feature of the Cooley's fracture. The fracture of the distal 2.5 centimeter of the radius, and there is a displacement of the distal fragment in the dorsal side. The other things can be involved, means there may be involvement of the radiocarpal joint, there may be involvement of radioulnar joint, but the basic thing is that the location as well as the displacement, these two are very peculiar in the Cooley's fracture. Why this radius usually breaks from here? Because this is the corticocancellous junction. We already had discussed this long bone. This is the cortical part, and this end part is the cancellous part. So this corticocancellous part, where the cortical part joined to the cancellous part, so this is the weakest part of any long bone. So that's why usually the radius fracture occurs from this corticocancellous junctions. You can see the injury. There is another similar fracture occur in the wrist, and if the displacement is in the ventral side, then it is another name called Smith fracture. Usually in the vague term, if any person receive injury in the wrist joint, it is called as the Cooley's fracture. It means vaguely can say that, but on peculiarly, if it is a radial displacement, as the distal displacement is there, dorsal displacement of the distal fragment is there, then it is correctly called the Cooley's fracture. If it is the ventral displacement of the distal fragment, then it is called the Smith fracture. Then there is a classifications, the fragment classifications. There are 4 types of the Cooley's fractures. This 4 categories. One, extra-articular, means the joint has no involvement. Second, intra-articular, involving the radiocarpal joints. Third, intra-articular, involving the radioulnar joint. And fourth, intra-articular, where the both radiocarpal as well as the radioulnar joints involved in that fracture. This is another classification called universal classification. This is the commonest classification and nowadays most commonly used. Here the Cooley's fracture is classified in 4 categories: type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. So simply type 1 is when the fracture is extra-articular and undisplaced. Means the fracture line is outside the wrist joint, extra-articular, articular, and there is no displacement in the fragments. Second, extra-articular and displaced. Type 3 includes intra-articular and undisplaced. Type 4, intra-articular and displaced. So these are the 4 types of the Cooley's fracture according to this universal classification. Nowadays this classification is used very much. Also called as the fracture of 6. That's just mnemonics to just keep remember, easy remind that characteristic of Coolidge fracture. Commonly occurs at 60 years, means commonly occurs in the old age. Due to this osteoporosis, the bone becomes weak and the cardiovascular junction become weak. The force required to cause Coolidge fracture are multiple of the 6 Newton, 12 Newton, 18 Newton, like that. 6 classical displacement we discuss later. 6 method of the fracture immobilizations, just like the splinter, lower slab, back slab, circular cast, and internal fixations, external fixations, like that. 6 important and early late complications will be discussed later, and 60% will have fracture ulnar styloid. Ulnar styloid process is also fractured in 60% of cases, along with this distal part, distal fracture in the radius. So the commonly this 6 type of the displacement occurs in the Coolidge fractures. Number 1 is distal displacement. Second, this dorsal tilt. Dorsal displacement, dorsal tilt. Lateral displacement, lateral tilt. Impaction and the supinations. So you can understand like that. Suppose this is the complete radius bone, and when it is fractured, so there are 2 fractures. So this is the dorsal segment, and this is the ventral proximal segment. Sorry, this is the proximal segment, and this is the distal segment. So this is the small distal segments. When after fracture, it get displaced dorsally. Dorsal. This is the upper side dorsal. This is lower side ventral. So you can say if it is displayed, complete fragment displayed like this. So this is dorsal displacement. If the displacement is not that, only tilting is there, then if the dorsal segment, the distal segment is have angulation like this type, means the complete fragment is not displaced, only angulation is there, only tilting is there, then it is dorsal. This is dorsal displacement, this is dorsal tilt. Then lateral displacement means that lateral side, you can see in the AP view, the fragment is displaced and laterally, and one and literally tilt. Understand? So lateral displacement, lateral tilt, dorsal displacement, dorsal tilt, and when the 2 fragments got impacted after fracture, these 2 fragments got impacted. That's like that. This is impactions. And when the distal fragment is moved like that, then it is called the supinations. Rotation is there. So there are 6 major type of the displacement occurs in the Coolidge fracture. Always remember dorsal displacement, dorsal tilt, lateral displacement, lateral tilt, impactions, and supination. Along with this classical 6, along with these 6 classical displacement, some other uncommon displacements also include, just like fracture of the styloid process of ulna along with the Coolidge fracture, rupture of the ulnar collateral ligament is there, rupture of the triangular cartilage of the ulna, and rupture of the introsus radio-ulnar ligaments. So there is a ligament in between the radius and ulnar also, that called the introsus radio-ulnar ligament. So sometimes that ligament can also be rupture. So along with this 6 classical displacement, some other type of the injuries may also occur in the wrist along with this Coolidge fracture. Then how to diagnose the? You can easily diagnose the Coolidge fracture with taking the history as well as the physical examination, and that is very important. The patients having history of falling over outstretched hand, having pain and swelling in the wrist joint, along with a classical deformity called the dinner fork deformity. You can see here the wrist is here, because the displacement of this distal segment in the dorsal side, this complete hand remain in the position like a fork. That's why it's called a dinner fork deformity. In the radiological finding, you can find in the X-ray, just like this is the X-ray simple. This is the lateral view, you can see that this distal fragment is rotated, is having the dorsal tilt. Complete segment is not displaced. Here in this picture, you can see the AP view. There is the impaction also. The dorsal segment and proximal segment is impacted. That called the shortening of this limb also. And along with this, there are some lateral displacement also. Understand? So there are out of these 6 displacement, 1 or 2 may occur simultaneously also. Means the same fragment may have the dorsal segment, dorsal displacement as well as lateral tilt simultaneously. Means 1 or more deformity can occur simultaneously also. So by this X-ray, you can easily identify the fracture and easily diagnose the Cooley's fracture, but you have to take the X-ray in both AP as well as in the lateral view to know the exact displacement. Treatment: fracture of the type 1 and type 2 can be. Type 1 is that extra articular undisplaced, and type 2 extra articular displaced. These both fracture can be treated with the closed reductions as well as after the reduction the POP plaster of Paris cast for the immobilizations. Initially, in the first 2 days, you can give the slab, and later you can convert into the complete circular cast. Already have shown you video also. So, and the type 3 and type 4, because the intra-articular fracture is there, means the joint is involved. In that cases, internal fixations by and open reduction and internal fixation is required to get good functionality after the healing of the fracture and early healing. So that's why in the case of that type 3 and type 4, better to do open reduction and internal fixations by the screw or the K-wire or the plates may be required. The method of the closed reduction is that simple. We must reduce this fracture in the anesthesia, because anesthesia is required. The fracture is self-pain situations, and if you manipulate in that situation, the patient having a huge amount of pain. So different type of anesthesia may required. You can give the general anesthesia. Either you can sedate the patient, and sometimes you can give the hematoma block. In the hematoma block, you just give the xylocaine, the lidocaine anesthetic agent only at the site of the injury, at the fracture line. You can inject the xylocaine here to anesthetize that portion, and in that case you can reduce this. So for the reductions, along with surgeons, the assistant, the action, the assistant is very much essential, and an assistant is required, and that has very much important role in the reducing the fracture. So there are few steps in the reduction of this Cooley's fracture. First, after the taking the anesthesia, after patient become painless, giving the anesthesia, whatever anesthesia, local or general anesthesia, or that block, sometimes this brachial plexus block is also work in these conditions. So the position of the patient should be in supine positions, and the assistant will hold the elbow in the flexed positions, just like that, flexed position, elbow should be flexed, and assistant hold the hand from here and give the counter tractions from this side, and surgeon will hold the hand from this side to reduce this fracture. So surgeons will hold the hand of that the patient, just like we shake a hand someone's, and by this first we should give the tractions. So first give the traction to relieve the impactions. When the impaction is relieved, then the repositioning of the distal fragments is required to push that fragments with both thumbs, and then again the traction, and again this pushing of the dorsal segment, so that dorsal segment, so that uh, distal segment, sorry, distal segment, so that these the distal fragments come in that place, means that can achieve the proper reduction. After that, achieving the reductions, you should just apply the POP cast. We already had discussed how to apply the POP cast, and after the POP cast, just a little bit palmar flexions and ulnar deviations. Just like we shake a hand, you have to fix that hand after reduction in that position, just like you are shaking hands. Means you can see this is the ulnar deviations and this is the palmar flexion. So little palmar flexion and ulnar deviation. In that situation, you have to immobilize, you have to mold that cast in that situation. In that case, you receive the good range of movement and good function after the fracture heals. You can see first give the counter tractions, then correction of the tilt, either dorsal tilt or lateral tilt by the finger of the surgeon, and then just keep in that positions. Means the important of the bone setting is that obtain the reduction and maintain the immobilizations. This is very important. Obtain and remain. Obtain and maintain. Obtain the improper reduction and maintain in that position. That is the key of the success in key of the immobilization, or the key of the bone setting. You can say obtain and maintain. If you obtain a correct reduction and then maintain that position, then the bones will heal very fastly and very correctly and without or with less complications. Then what are the early complications can occur in the Coolidge fracture? First, instability. That is very common, instability in the reductions. If your reduction is not proper, then it will be unstable and can again it have the displacement if you are not immobilized properly. Medial or ulnar nerve stress, because these nerves are passing through this very short, this carpal tunnel is there. So from there, this median and ulnar nerve are passed. While reduction or sometime after fracture due to displacement, these nerve can be compressed, so that can occur in the tingling sensation or the hyposthesia or paresthesia or anesthesia in these fingers and the distal part. Post reduction swelling is common complications. Compartment syndrome is also a common. Anesthesia problem, injury to the proximal segment of the bone during the reduction. This is also common. While the given the traction, proximal segment may also get injured. Late manipulation, late complications are malunion, rupture of extensor pollicis tendon. The tendon attached to this extensor surface to this thumb called extensor pollicis tendon. Frozen shoulder, that this is the problem occurs in the shoulder due to the long time immobility of this. Though we in the fracture, in the Coolidge fracture, we should fix the hand, that we should apply the cast below elbow cast, means from here up to here only. Means thumb is out of cast, thumb should not be included. These carpal bones are not included. See, the carpal bones are included, metacarpals are not included. So the fracture should be from here and up to the elbow. Elbow is not involved. So you must advise your patient that he can move his elbow and he can move his shoulder, because most commonly patient will not move their shoulder as well as elbow. So later on that patient may get the frozen shoulder. That is the joint stiffness in the shoulder joint and the painful joint movement in the shoulder joint. That condition called the frozen shoulder. And the carpal tunnel syndrome is also may occur laterally and non-union and Sudeck osteodystrophy. This is the common late complication that can occur in the Coolidge fracture. There are some mnemonics to remember this Coolidge fracture. That fracture of distal radius, and D is important term. Fracture of distal radius fallen outstretched hand, dorsally flexed, elderly, osteoporosis, dorsally displaced, dorsally angulated, deformed, dinner for deformity, tenderness, distal fiora, and close reductions.